Thanks again, everyone. Welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced a travel ban targeting several nations, 12 of them. From Monday, citizens from 7 African countries, including Congo, Brazzaville, Chad, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Libya, Somalia, and Sudan, will be barred from entering the United States. The White House says the restrictions are due to the high rate of people overstaying their U.S. visa and the inability of access to the other criminal records. For countries like Libya and Somalia, the proclamation references alleged links to terrorism, while others like Chad and Equatorial Guinea are listed primarily due to immigration violations. The decision has sparked backlash across Africa, with critics calling it discriminatory and harmful to diplomatic ties. A group of African-led trade unions have urged the UN-backed International Labour Organization to create its highest-level inquiry into Saudi Arabia, citing abuses of migrant workers as the country prepares to host the 2034 World Cup. Separately, the ILO signed a renewed working agreement with the kingdom's government. According to the ILO Director General and former Prime Minister of Togo, Gilbert Khumbo, the agreement reflects a shared commitment to advancing labour policies that are aligned with international standards and national priorities. A different view was suggested by trade unions in 36 countries, including Ghana, Nigeria, and Senegal, who filed a formal complaint with the ILOs asking for a commission of inquiry. It alleged evidence of forced labour, wage theft, physical and sexual abuse, as well as systemic racism targeting African workers, and continued Saudi use of the kafala system, tying them to employers, especially in construction and domestic work. Meanwhile, a previous complaint filed by the Building and Woodworkers International Union a year ago is being investigated by the ILO, which unites governments, workers and employers to set labour standards and promote decent work. Well, it's World Environment Day, and this year's theme is Beat Plastic Pollution. Reports show that microplastics are now in almost everything that exists on the Earth, including the human brain. And scientists warn that by 2040, plastic leakage into the environment is predicted to grow by 50%, and that is predicted to grow by 50%, and that pollution creeps into what we eat, the water we drink, and even the air we breathe. In his message for World Environment Day, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said, "Plastic waste clogs rivers, pollutes the ocean, and endangers wildlife. And as it breaks down into smaller and smaller parts, it infiltrates every corner of Earth, from the top of Mount Everest to the depths of the ocean, from human brains to even human breast milk." Yet there's a movement for urgent change. We are seeing mounting public engagement. He adds that steps towards reusability and greater accountability and policies to reduce single-use plastics and improve waste management, but we must go further, and we also must go faster. World Environment Day is celebrated every year on the 5th of June. The celebration started in 1973 and is led by the United Nations Environment Programme. This year's World Environment Day is hosted by the Republic of Korea. Meanwhile, local community members in Yambio, Western Equatoria of South Sudan, have joined forces with the United Nations peacekeepers to clear bags of garbage and collect thousands of plastic bags and bottles littering streets and clogging drainage systems. The cleanup, which includes filling of potholes around local markets, is seen as a critical measure to improve sanitation as well as prevent flooding during rainy season. Growing piles of garbage in the country have been long challenging for local authorities and residents, given limited resources to tackle this threat to hygiene. United Nations mission in South Sudan, Emmanuel Dukudane, says the initiatives are part of a long-term commitment to build trust and confidence between communities, as well as between United Nations peacekeepers and those that they serve. In response, Mayor of Yambio Municipality, Singira Robert, expresses appreciation for the peacekeepers' initiative in the community, urging residents to carry on with the habit.
We live with the communities around, and in terms of promoting relationship and social cohesion and peace among the communities in Yambio, not only in Yambio municipality, but across the state, in Western Equatoria. This exercise is binding us together. We'll continue supporting the Yambio municipality authorities and the communities here in Light, so that at least
And the Lagos State government has read the Riot Act to all residents of the state and who brazenly defy and disobey environmental laws, saying henceforth the full force of the law will be brought to bear on them. The State Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Mr. Tokunbo Waham, made this comment during a press conference in Alausa, Ikeja. He says a stiff penalty of about 250,000 naira fine or up to 3 months imprisonment awaits anyone caught dumping refuse illegally or littering the environment.
Henceforth, there will be zero tolerance for all forms of environmental infractions. We are seeking to keep Lagos clean during this Salah period as we prepare for Salah festivities, which comes up in a few days' time. As we all know, it is a major festival for all adherents of the Islamic faith. During the festival, a lot of waste will be generated through slaughtering of rams and other types of livestock. We, however, want to urge Lagosians and all residents to maintain a clean and hygienic environment, especially around homes, markets, and worship centers. All generated waste should be sorted, bagged, and handed over to the approved PSP operators across all the wards of the state. We also want to discourage the dumping of refuse or solid waste in the drains, medians, or setback. Every illegal dumping in the drains and the public spaces causes flash flooding, endangers public health, and defaces our city, the city of Lagos, and our state, Lagos State. It is strictly prohibited and under active surveillance by the Loma team and the task force and the largest team under Major Code surveillance. Lagosians must also know that there are stiff penalties for offenders now. Anyone caught dumping refuse illegally or littering the environment with refuse faces up to 250,000 naira fine or up to 3 months imprisonment under the Lagos State sanitation law provisions. Serial offenders, however, will face stiffer punishments.
Let's get more on this. Joining us on the program to discuss this year's World Environment Day is the CEO of the GSR 360 Group and member of the 1 Million Trees Initiative, Mr. Uba. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Right, so, you know, the danger of plastic waste and the pollution of the environment is the theme of this year's World Environment Day. And incidentally, we just heard, you know, from the Commissioner for Environment in Lagos talking about the ban on single-use plastic and other initiatives that the state government is doing to protect the environment. Lagos is, I wouldn't say it's such a huge space when you talk about land mass, but, you know, you have millions of people living here and, you know, doing their thing. So how realizable is the state government's dream of clearing up plastic and ensuring that they don't return to the environment, to block drainage systems and all that? We've seen flooding everywhere, and NIMET has predicted more flooding this year, and we do know block drainages cause this. So how easy, you know, will it be for the state government to get this done?
Yeah, you know, thanks. You see, there is no better time to talk about plastic than now. Lagos alone generates above 15,000 metric tons of plastic waste daily. And so we must have concerted effort to tackle this. Now, how do we do it? From government to citizenry to non-governmental organizations, to students, to children. There must be concerted effort. We must make it an intentional effort because that's the only way we can do it. Look at it. Plastics, we're looking at single-use plastics. It takes first to 20 years for it to, first of all, degenerate into microplastics. It takes over 400 years for it to completely decay. And so for every ton of waste plastic that I allow into the soil, it's going to take at least 450 years for it to completely decay. Now, how do we do this? How do we tackle it? You can try the School for Plastic Initiative. It's doing very well. You can try Cash for Plastic Initiative. It works across, everywhere in the world. Factory for Fuel. Factory for Fuel. Go to factories who generate this plastic. Give them an initiative. The government can do it. That for every ton of plastic you return to a recycle plant, you get a free fuel for your factory. It will work. Now go to pharmacies who in turn sell these plastics either by package or by branding to the public. Let them go into using paper bags. So until we do this, let us commercialize it. Put commerce into it. If you check the streets of Lagos today, you hardly can find empty plastics because it's now money. For them, it's commercialized. And so the government must look at efforts to be sure that this commercial system of returning plastics is enforced.
Right. I think there's some kind of compliance to that, albeit in little ways, like some supermarkets are giving out paper bags or making customers pay extra for plastic bags, or even encouraging people to come to the grocery stores with their own bags, those that are reusable, so you don't throw it away, because you know that if you do, you probably go with your goods more in your hands.
Yeah. You see, paying more, paying more looks, like, okay, taxing them more. Don't forget that whether we like it or not, whether we're economists or not, untaxed fund on Nigeria streets is far, far more huge. And so somebody would prefer to lose 5, 10, 20 naira.
Than the inconvenience.
Yes, than the inconvenience. So we must make policies and implement those policies. Good intentions don't plant corn. That's an African adage. You understand?
You have to be intentional.
Yes, it has to be intentional.
Yes.
So both government, non-governmental organizations, individuals, children's schools, we must be intentional about it.
And good, one of the ways that we're trying to protect the environment is to do tree planting. Good. And it's one of your passion.
Our passion.
You've been going out today, yes. To do it. How was it?
Fantastic. This year was awesome. You understand? Normally we plant trees, but this year we're taking Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Delta together. We did all, at the same time. We have introduced cash crops. Instead of trees alone, we are now introducing cash crops. Mango, orange, guava, almond, cocoa, so that at least you are sure that the much the tree is going to give you shade, protect the environment, you can have a cash return for it. And so people will have to protect it.
Right.
And so that's 1 million tree initiative.
I'm afraid we've completely run out of time, but it's a conversation that we must get back to. It never ends, really. 400 years, that's a long time. Yeah. I've been speaking to the CEO of GSR 360 Group and member of the 1 Million Trees Initiative, Mr. Uba. Thank you so much again for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me.
South Africa's Department of Agriculture is extremely worried following the discovery of a foot-and-mouth disease case at a Gauteng feedlot facility owned by Karen Beef, the country's largest beef producer. The detection has raised serious concerns about the potential spread of the disease, with the government warning that other producers, particularly those with less stringent biosecurity measures, could also be at risk. Our South Africa correspondent, Innocent Semosa, reports.
Foot and mouth disease, or FMD, is a highly contagious virus disease that affects cloven-hoofed animals such as cattle, pigs, sheep, goats, and some wildlife like buffalo and antelope. It is caused by the foot and mouth disease virus, FMDV, In a country like South Africa, with a significant agricultural sector, an FMD outbreak can disrupt meat exports, threaten food security, cause financial losses to farmers and the economy. Pepeneneng Serage, Deputy Director General of Agricultural Production, Biosecurity and Natural Resources Management in the Department of Agriculture, says if a biosecure establishment such as current beef could get FMD, others that are less biosecure are in danger. But what immediate steps is the department taking to assess and strengthen biosecurity protocols across others less? Serage explains.
Steps that the department is taking to ensure that biosecurity measures are strengthened will involve shortly, after Minister signs a directive, what we call Section 9(1)(b) of the Animal Diseases Act, which will be about controlling of all cloven-hoofed animals in the country, the movement thereof. So that is one way of strengthening the adherence to biosecurity measures, which farmers already know of, but for some reasons they do not adhere to. So we'll also be controlling auctions and movement, transportation of livestock in the country.
Serage says this is not classified as a disaster.
Government doesn't have to really have any financial assistance to farmers for things that like FMD outbreak, which is not a disaster. Definition of a disaster is about things that could not be prevented. Foot and mouth disease cannot be classified as a disaster because if farmers adhere to biosecurity principles, we wouldn't have FMD.
With the department currently dealing with outbreaks in KwaZulu-Natal and now in Gauteng, questions around whether or not South Africa's vaccine supply chain and response capacity is adequate to handle multiple current FMD outbreaks. From Mpumalanga, South Africa, Innocent Samosa, Channels Television News.
Ivory Coast's main opposition leader, Tijani Thiam, has been excluded from the final list of presidential candidates alongside 3 other prominent opposition candidates as the country sets to hold its election in October. Earlier this year, a court ruled that Mr. Thiam was not eligible to run due to his dual Ivorian French nationality, a decision that Mr. Thiam vowed to fight. Born in Ivory Coast, Mr. Thiam received a French nationality in 1987 but gave it up in March. Addressing journalists, the president of the Electoral Commission, Ibrahim Koulibaly, says that if the courts have ordered his removal, the commission surely will comply. Staying in that country, authorities report that 5 inmates have been killed in a routine search, which turned into a violent clash. Now, in a statement, the prosecutor, Abel Nangbele Yeo, says prisoners in Bouake, the country's second-largest city, reacted with hostility to a routine search for contraband where 5 prisoners were killed and 29 injured, including 6 prison officers and 23 prisoners. He adds that when security officers arrived at the building, they were attacked by prisoners armed with clubs, machetes and other blunt objects, while the officers fired warning shots to cover their retreat. During the search, he claimed officers seized blocks of cannabis, tramadol tablets, mobile phones and 3 grenades. However, Ivory Coast has been criticized by human rights groups and the United Nations for its prison conditions. UN High Commissioner for Human Rights has expressed shock by revelations of gross human rights violations uncovered at official and unofficial detention facilities run by the Stabilization Support Apparatus Force in the Libyan capital, Tripoli. Speaking through the Commission spokesperson, Jeremy Lawrence, says dozens of bodies have been found, along with the discovery of suspected instruments of torture and abuse and potential evidence of extrajudicial killings. He claims that this confirms the long-standing findings by the UN, as well as from various witness accounts regarding the existence of such sites and the extent of violations committed in connection with them. He calls on the Libyan authorities to bring those responsible for the atrocious acts to justice without delay, in accordance with international standards.
Immediate. We are shocked by revelations of gross human rights violations uncovered at official and unofficial detention facilities run by the Stabilisation Support Apparatus Force in the Libyan capital of Tripoli. Dozens of bodies have been found, along with the discovery of suspected instruments of torture and abuse and potential evidence of extrajudicial killings. This confirms the long-standing findings by the UN, as well as from various witness accounts regarding the existence of such sites and the extent of violations committed in connection with them. These sites must be sealed and all potential evidence preserved in support of immediate accountability efforts. We call on the Libyan authorities to conduct independent, impartial and transparent investigations into these discoveries. Those responsible for these atrocious acts must be brought to justice without delay and in accordance with international standards. We urge the authorities to grant Libya's forensic authorities, as well as the United Nations, full and unimpeded access to all sites. Our office is also monitoring closely the situation on the ground in Tripoli following the killing last month of the SSA's leader and subsequent clashes between state security actors and armed groups.
Tanzanian government says it's set to block access to social media platform X due to its access to allow pornographic content to be shared. The country's Minister of Information, Jerry Williams, says that content in the platform is contrary to the East African states' laws, culture, customs and traditions. Reports say that access to X has been restricted in the last 2 weeks after political tensions rose and the police account was hacked. However, there has not been a total shutdown of the platform. Meanwhile, a Tanzanian rights group posted on the platform saying Mr. Sila's comments reflect a troubling pattern of digital repression ahead of October's presidential and parliamentary elections. And finally, the Eid al-Adha Muslim Festival comes up this weekend and preparations are in top gear for Muslims in Nigeria. But what's a celebration without the traditional ram? Many have complained the economic realities on the ground is making it harder for them to add this important aspect to the celebrations. The price of rams, central to the festival's tradition of traditional animal sacrifice, has surged dramatically, leaving many families struggling to keep up. The traditional ram market in Kara area along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, typically a vibrant hub of activity, is facing an unprecedented slowdown. Ram prices have doubled and in some cases tripled compared to last year. One Nigerian visiting from London said the ram that he bought personally around, let's say, 200,000 naira or $127 last year, this year is starting to negotiate from 600,000 naira or $380. Meanwhile, as the Eid festivities draw near, there's growing concern that the high cost of living as well will dampen the celebratory spirit, as what was once a proud family ritual becomes a financial burden few can bear. That's our show today. Thank you for watching. I'm Joke Rogers.